Good Tuesday to you, my people. This is Jack Branch, located in Covington, Louisiana. And this is the Healthy Wealth Show, where we help people navigate through the valleys of life, whether it's in health-related issues, faith-related issues, or business-related issues. And today I'm very excited that a gentleman that I had a chance to meet a few years back, our paths have crossed recently when I saw an announcement that he's involved with a local entity doing some phenomenal work here in the greater New Orleans and probably all over Louisiana. And that's a friend of mine, Phil Brodt. How are you today, Phil?
Hello, Jack. Very good. Very excited to be on the show with you.
I really appreciate you taking some time, sir. I know you're a very busy man, and kind of the problems, but also the opportunities with social media, like you and I gathering today, sharing the good news and the good stories versus dividing us. So give us a little bit of history on you. I know you're originally, you're not originally from this area, are you? You look like you lived in Connecticut for some time. Give the viewers a little background on you, Phil.
Yeah, so I was born in Delaware. I was a DuPont brat. My father worked for DuPont. He's a research and development guy, and moved down when I was 70 years old or so, and was raised in the New Orleans area. But when I was 19, I left and moved to Connecticut and vowed I would never set foot in Louisiana. And the rest is history.
That's pretty amazing. You got to be careful what you say, because sometimes it'll come back to fruition. I said the first time that I moved from New Orleans, never would I live here again. And it comes to fruition. So you're married. How long you married, Phil?
Oh, thanks, Jack.
Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot. Just a couple years.
28, coming on 29 years. And September 1st.
That's awesome. And, today when it's just so easy to give up, I mean, it's amazing, a testament when I meet people, whether it's 28, 15, 45. I mean, there's a myriad of things trying to take a shot at that family unit, isn't there?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so, enemy's always lurking around the corner.
And so you grew up in the Northeast and really had a chance to really be around a lot of different industries and what have you. Spent a myriad of time kind of doing consulting, and what really resonated with me was just hearing your story about your family. And
we're coming across the water into Greece. And then my second daughter, she's a missionary now. She's finished her undergraduate at LSU and is going to start a graduate school next year, but took a year to continue to missionary work. And she's done extreme things. She's been involved in human trafficking recovery, even in Bangkok, Thailand. So pretty extreme things. And then my son is, again, he's waiting to hear back from West Point. That's his dream. He's got his congressional letter, and the application has been in, and just waiting to hear back. And he's got some Plan Bs that are way beyond any Plan Bs that I could have ever dreamed of.
Right.
So very very proud of the kids. I think I'm a bit of a risk taker, so they've gotten the risk gene from me, and they've got the ministry gene from their mother.
What a great combination.
That was pretty interesting.
So what happened to you in 2011 as you were kind of going through life? I mean, kind of probably reached the pinnacle of your career. Yeah. And tell the viewers a little bit about that, because so often I think the people that I engage with, most of the pursuit of happiness is around financial gain. And I know in talking to you somewhat, it's more than just making money and accomplishing, checking the box. It's more about what kind of impact you can make. And that's evident with your children and, with your marriage of 20-something years and just hearing your story about, reaching that place and being like, man, there's got to be more.
Yeah. Well, when I was young married, I started with a very small local firm in the area in some airports around around the country into being the industry leader in airport technology systems. And, our clients were the big airports. They were the LAXs and the Atlantas and, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey airports, JFK, LaGuardia, Newark were our airports, Houston. I mean, just really the big airports. We did work for airports, airlines, and governments. So the FAA was a major client of ours. And then we worked internationally as well. So we had really turned into a powerhouse company. We had other divisions working in nuclear power. We had divisions working in criminal justice, election systems, and we grew to hundreds of people. And then really at the end of 2011, we decided, that it was time for a bit of a change. The original founders were ready to have a transition package, and so we all decided we're going to sell majority interest to private equity. So we went on the hunt for the right private equity, and we found a really fine firm in Connecticut, and it was a good transaction. It really it helped us on a corporate governance side. And after a few years, we grew well, very well. But after 4 or 5 years, I was spending so much time on corporate governance, board management, financial management, budgeting, and I really wasn't spending the time with clients. I wasn't building the business from the market side, and that's really where I'm wired. I'm wired for the market side. I'm wired for entrepreneurism, and it really turned into more of a corporate governance type of role. And I just decided, my life was consumed with this business. And I wasn't able to do the things I wanted to do and needed to do, and things outside of work. And so at the end of middle of 2015, I decided it's time for an exit. And so, I'm just kind of right. I was at the pinnacle of my career, but I left, and I had a non-compete that started as a very aggressive non-compete in 2015. And interestingly, because of a series of transactions that have occurred since, I still have a non-compete in 2019. So at the end of this year, I'm out of it, but it's been, 4 years of non-compete. But what it did, it forced me, because at 52 or 3, when I left, I wasn't ready to retire. I wanted to do things. I still had a lot of, I have a strong drive that's just as strong as it was when I was 25 years old. And so I started a company called Eclipse Development, and it's completely different world. It is building custom and higher end homes, primarily on the North Shore. We also have done some church work on the South Shore. We're commercial and residential, but it's been really a joy because I've been focusing on design, building a company from scratch that is pretty strong. Obviously, a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties. It's not all a bed of roses. But it's been very satisfying. And so at the end of I still do consulting with my old company in aviation. And at the end of the year, I'll be free to do whatever I want. Well, I'm going to continue to do this, but I may also dabble in some aviation things as well.
Well, that's good. Tell me how you got hooked up with BCM a little bit, and what a lot of the viewers that might not be aware what Baptist Community Ministries is about, correct? In New Orleans. It's you were sharing some stuff, and folks, you definitely need to do some research on this entity, because in just a little bit I've done, and then hearing you share, it's really making an impact in the greater New Orleans and Louisiana, and probably beyond this, correct?
Yeah, so the focus is five parishes around New Orleans. So it's Orleans, Jefferson, Plaquemine, St. Bernard, and St. Tammany. BCM is a powerhouse of a foundation. I've been following them for a number of years. One of the guys I worked with was a board member of BCM 10 years ago. So I knew a good bit about it just from the outside. And probably 2 or 3 years ago, there were some discussions about me potentially joining BCM as a board member or a trustee. And it really happened. I joined the grants committee a year ago, where we issue grants and grant making. And then this year I rolled onto the full board and onto a finance committee. So I'm really immersed into it now. So BCM was founded originally in 1996 with $153 million from the sale of Baptist Hospital. So Baptist Hospital, Napoleon and Claiborne was the it was originally founded as a Baptist hospital. And so the proceeds from the sale went into a trust to be a health and spiritual foundation for New Orleans and the region to help those areas. This was designated for from a Christian perspective. And so over these last 20 years, started with $150 million, a little over $300 million has been spent in work in the region, and there's a little over $300 million in the bank. So it's grown from 150 with $300 million left, and we've already spent $300 million. And it's involved, we're involved in a number of areas. Chaplains, for instance, the chaplains that are with the New Orleans Police Department are our employees. Chaplains that are in the hospitals, Children's Hospital and the like, those are our employees. And we provide chaplaincy services in those areas. And so there are 110,000 contacts last year in 2018 with just the chaplains dealing with people, ministering to people in times of need. We issue grants.
We all go through that, right? I mean, just because people don't believe in, a higher power or God or Jesus, whoever they want to define that per se, they're always going to fall upon a time in their life that is the valley, right? Where they have to, get a hand up or, somebody just pull them along or encourage them. I mean, it's critical, and I think that's what was so big on your heart is, this division. I think a lot of times we're a lot closer than the media wants us to think we are, right? And social media has been this, like fuse, if you will, right to the dynamite.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let me describe that. One last thing. Yeah. Granting, there are 80 organizations receive grants from BCM right now, and it's just a tremendous organization that's affecting so many lives in New Orleans primarily through the ministries we do and the grants that we issue. But you talk about divisions. I've had the pleasure and just the blessing of traveling to 49 states. I've had business relationships and other things in 49 states. Nebraska is the last state to visit. I'm doing that in the spring. And I've been to 23 countries. And it's really interesting. It was coast to coast, San Francisco to New York. I have built wonderful relationships with individual people. And there aren't the divisions that you see. And I really, as I think about it, think about all of the fighting and arguing that's going on. So much of it comes from social media. I'll give you an example. There is, about a week ago or so, I got into a little bit of a debate online with two friends from high school. These were two friends from a youth group in high school. Got into a debate about abortion following the New York State action. Yeah. One of them was ardently pro-choice. One was ardently pro-life. And I'm pro-life. So we got into this debate, and we concluded it gently. And it's interesting. I had a relationship with these people before I got online and had a debate. Both of these people I count as sisters in Christ. I love them as sisters in Christ. I count them as friends, and I would do anything for them. And the reason we could have this debate and continue that is because we had a personal relationship first. And so back in the day before social media, you complained about the bum politician, but it wasn't a personal thing. And you complained to your friend who generally agreed that person was a bum, and maybe they disagreed with you. And you had a little debate, and then you ended friends because you had a relationship. What's happening in social media is that debate now happens with people you have no relationship with. There's no foundation of love, no foundation of friendship. And the only thing you know about that person is what you disagree about. And so you make something very personal and someone you know nothing about, something that you know nothing about. I had a friend who was a transgender I worked with. We had a great relationship. We argued, we debated, but we had a good relationship because we had that foundation of a personal connection. So I urge people to not go into debates with people you don't know. Stay out of it. Don't argue. Have discussions with friends. But boy, our brethren, our countrymen, are basically good people that like each other. Conservatives, liberals like each other when they have relationships together. When they don't, when it's just the division and that's all you know about the person, yeah, you're not going to like them because that's all you know. You don't have any kind of other personal foundation to rely on. So stay off the debating with people you know. Stay off the anonymous debates and the posts, and love people. Love people as Christ loved us.
That's so true. I mean, there's a good friend of mine, a colleague, and I'm always cautioning him. I'm like, look, man, just give some good news. It's like every bit of news that he throws out there or posts is just stirring the pot, stirring the pot. I'm like, people already know that our country's going through a lot of issues. It needs more love, as you said. I mean, it's almost like a Beatles song, but it's really biblical more than it's a Beatles song. I mean, it's interesting that the Beatles would even, write that, which has me to believe that, the word Almighty ends up infecting all of us, whether we realize it or not.
And I would love to find the person whose mind has been changed by a Facebook debate.
Huge.
Doesn't happen.
Any, right. And like you said, willing to walk in the other person's shoes, see things for what they're going through, being considerate does a lot more than just lighting that fuse and just sit back and watching for an explosion. And, it's interesting we're having this discussion because I used to feed and get into that stuff. And the more I grow and get wiser, it's just, you got to leave it alone. So, I was amazed at looking through this endeavor that you're at BCM and just hearing you speak about, being in touch with the next steps of your life is, I think, something a lot of people, want to grasp more of. So how did you know that deep in your soul or spirit that you just didn't need to keep pursuing financial rewards, if you will, but needed to take the skills you've got, not that you're building houses for free, but to really do something totally different than you've done in the rest of your career?
I think I knew for a while. I knew I was probably plotting my exit for 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years. I knew I needed to do something else. I felt the calling to do something else. I knew I didn't want to work 80 hours a week at a job like that, and I wanted to have a Christian foundation. So when I first started in the business, there was a Christian partner, and we tended to have a lot more of a spiritual journey together. But as the firm got really big and hundreds of people, things changed dramatically, and so you're really not having a spiritual journey as a firm. You're fully corporate.
P&L.
So I want to start something that was a testament to Christ. That was something that we could reflect Christ in our business activities, an opportunity to, when we deal with people, to discuss Christ and have a Christian mindset about the whole business. And so we did. So there are a couple of us, Dave McCarl and Brian Zwodniak, and they're both committed, sold out Christians, and they are particularly good about sharing the gospel with subcontractors and vendors and suppliers and people they come in contact with. And, it is just a real blessing to be working in this kind of environment.
Yeah. And and I looked at some of your work too with Eclipse. It looks like you're doing some stuff over at the River Club, which is a beautiful, development over here, near Madisonville for you local people. But the thing that struck me the most in our conversation yesterday leading up to this was just the pure faith that you exhibit as a man, not just business person, as it relates to your daughters doing this work, called to Christ, called to serving, and, just having an unwavering spirit. And, that to me is, really the truth of the message, how your daughter had worked with Syrian refugees that were leaving, a country just bombasted with a lot of religion, let's just say. We got a lot of religion in the U.S. I mean, just because people go to church doesn't necessarily mean they have a relationship, right? They could just be following religion. So and you hear all this rhetoric in the media and social media, and even my colleague, he's like, man, why would people take the Syrian refugees? And I'm like, how are they truly going to meet Christ if we
Yeah.
don't reflect it, right? And it
Yeah.
just
She would. I'm sorry.
go ahead. It just moved me so much. I mean, I have a 15-year-old, and look, I mean, I'm not there yet to just have that faith as you do,
Yeah.
So how did that develop in you? And B, what has been your takeaway from talking to them that these folks leaving this Syria and this hostile area that social media and CNN or Fox News aren't reporting to on an ongoing basis?
Yeah, and I understand, the concerns about excessive flow of people that could be nefarious characters.
Yes.
But what my daughter's experience was is that the folks coming across, there may have been some characters in there, nefarious characters, but by and large, these were disaffected Muslims who were fleeing a war-torn area, and they were turning their back on Islam, basically. They knew what Islam had done to their country. They knew Islam had not served their people well, and they were just done. And so they were coming across on these rafts and meeting Christians who didn't at all fit their perspective what Christians were. And that their perspective of Christians were what they have heard about and seen on American TV, which is all, sex, everybody's sexed up all the time. And mean, and now they find these people who are Christians that are kind and loving and caring, and they're very open to discussing their faith. And then in Athens, my wife and I went over there for a week when my daughter was in Greece, and we went to Athens, and she took us to coffee shops where there would be Christian coffee shops run by Middle Easterners, and there would be hundreds of people coming a day to talk about Christianity, to ask questions, and then, accepting Christ and changing their lives, and people going into Northern Europe, banging on the doors of the churches that are basically dead, that haven't seen new people in 20 years, asking priests and nuns about the gospel, and priests and nuns saying, I had to brush up on the gospel because nobody's asked us in so long. So a real movement with people that have been unreachable for a generation. Who can go into Syria and start prophesizing? Nobody. So suddenly you have this flow of people that you can then talk to and share with. And so it's if you look at it in that perspective, it's an entirely different and interesting perspective. And God is moving in that region. Direct revelation is occurring all the time in that region. So, for us, we were concerned, obviously, about our daughters, but we weren't losing sleep over it. One daughter was, one of these transfer facilities got turned into a detention facility, and so my oldest daughter was working in a detention facility that was fairly hostile. My second daughter is working in the red light district of Bangkok, working with ladyboy recovery but we weren't losing sleep over it. We knew that God had a bigger plan, and we've always impressed on them that life is bigger than just making money, that there's a bigger purpose, a better purpose. One of the things that happens on the North Shore is that there's a false reality here. It's very affluent. Kids get very, addiction is high, suicide rate is through the roof and rising, and kids are just consumed with what they don't have that their neighbor has. And so we were involved for many years in ministries in New Orleans, in the inner city. And so we always made it a point to take the kids periodically into the city and do ministry work and see how the other half lives. And it gave them an entirely different perspective than this lack of reality view here.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is like I don't know what to call it, but it's definitely a curtain over here that people, are ramped up to, right? To hear well beyond there. They could make $100,000 and spend 200, and that whole chasing the Jones phenomenon is alive and real in this suburban area. And I think hearing your story about how you raise them up is going to give you the confidence when they go and they leave the leave the nest to go do the work that God's calling them to. What a great testament, to what they're doing. And, they could pursue, earthly riches, but they're really pursuing heavenly riches. We're really, at the end of our days, they're going to see the Creator and hear those words, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." And that's what we all aspire to. And so what's next for you? I mean, I know you're very pliable man at this stage. You're doing Eclipse development, BCM, still working with your former entity in a consulting manner. Where do you see God taking you next, Phil?
That's a good question. I'm trying to get Eclipse to a certain point that it can be a little more self-sustaining and scalable. I want to scale it up a little bit more. I'm heavily involved in church too, and we are, that's fairly consuming. I don't know. I think I've told a number of people I really got to decide what I want to do when I grow up, because I've been changing, but I've been enjoying it. It's been a good ride, and maybe at the end of this year I'll be able to do a little more aviation work, but still, obviously, Eclipse is a passion of mine. I really enjoy. Our approach to the home building isn't to figure out how to cut another 10 cents off a length of wood to save some money. Our approach is that the house is a sanctuary. It's a refuge from work and world, and so it needs to be a place that's special. And so we have really spent a lot of time trying to build a special place. Sometimes it's a little bit more than what others do. Sometimes it's right in line with what others do. But it's going to be a special place, and that's where our focus is on design, both architectural design, interior design, really making it a special place. And you can see various houses we've done. We just finished a spectacular 8,000 square foot house in Chifuncta Club Estates that it's the kind of thing you see in the Hollywood Hills, and not too much around here. And you can always see it on our website or our Facebook page, Eclipse Development.
That's awesome. It's nice to see new stuff coming in. I mean, how many raised Acadians can we see? Not that they're not great design, but bringing in some other elements. There's a friend of mine, I don't know if you know him, Graffiti, and he's in Metairie and does some really contemporary homes, graffiti homes, and the houses don't last long. I mean, he builds them and there's a buyer very quickly because it is unique and it is that sanctuary, as you said. And I really appreciate you taking some time to kind of cut through the noise of the distorted reality associated with social media and the fact that, we need to really step into the shoes of others versus being a keyboard thug or just trying to make up a bunch of stuff when we don't even know somebody, walk a mile in their shoes to really appreciate really where they may be coming from. And because I think this is a message, we can harness it in a way and use it like this to get the good news out. But there's just so much of a current and undertow pulling people out to sea that sometimes everything gets lost in translation. And, I appreciate your heart, and I appreciate you as a man continuing to fight the good fight, because we need other successful business people like yourself really carrying that torch and handing it to the next generation. And I think you're optimistic as I am. A lot of people are worried about the millennials or Generation Z. I'm not. What I see is quite different. I mean, I see some pockets where it may be a lazy factor, but you're talking about your boy potentially going to West Point and his plan B's better than most people's plan A. That doesn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, he wants to be an ambassador to Syria. He wants to go in and help solve that problem. He looks at the 13 hours of Benghazi and says, "Yeah, I want to be involved in something like that." That's pretty remarkable. But here's the other thing I see. When you and I were young and we were in youth groups, it was pretty easy to be passive and to just kind of attend and not really do much. The generation of my kids, and they're involved in youth groups, and they're involved in ministries at a age, they're sold out. They're going on spring breaks in college. They're going to orphanages in Mexico by the hundreds on their spring break. They're not going to the beach.
Yeah,
it's just a different mindset.
They're not going to Destin. They're going to really make a difference.
Yeah, there was nothing like that going on when I was young. So I feel good about this coming generation. They're really sold out.
Me as well. And Phil, thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man, and
My pleasure.
stay tuned to next time when we meet with other leaders in the in the realm of ministry, in the realm of health, or in business. And we all need one another. So let's turn off all the noise and the keyboard bullying,
Absolutely.
and really meet people with where they are. And that's to truly love them like Christ loved the church. It's like we're called to be as husbands. And I hope that you will think that through before we send that snotty remark. And I'm speaking to myself. So it's always a good teaching moment to learn this. Phil, I appreciate you. Keep doing great things. And check out Eclipse Development LLC if you're looking for somebody to do not just a house, but a true home and a sanctuary. And do some more research on BCM, the Baptist Christian Ministries. Very great organization. I was sifting through it last night, looking at all the entities that they fund or involved in some capacity, and you'll be very aware of some of those entities that you probably are involved with yourself. And you'll have an awesome day, and we'll see you Thursday when we continue on interviewing leaders in this field. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you.